Before a caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it becomes a pile of goo. And that's exactly what this podcast is all about. Hi, I'm Dr. Karin Nordin. I'm a behavior change expert and CEO here at Body Brain Alliance. And I'm here to bring you bite-sized stories, conversations, and lessons about the messy, chaotic, and yet absolutely beautiful process of personal reinvention. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, my friends, to episode 3 of the Work of Becoming podcast. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to 2 questions that will fundamentally melt your brain. So this is my warning for you. These are not easy questions to grapple with. You probably will not have an answer immediately, but these are important questions to revisit over and over and over and over and over again as you go through the work of becoming and the becoming process. Let's start with this. It is very important in the process of becoming, in the process of changing your life and adjusting your behavior and moving towards new patterns that are going to govern your life and all of that. It is very important in that process that you know where you're going. I often use the metaphor of Google, like GPS. When I get in my car, I cannot tell Google, I don't want to go to Kansas. If I tell Google I don't want to go to Kansas, it's going to take me absolutely nowhere. If I want to get anywhere, I have to put in a destination. And so the world of behavior change and becoming is the same. In my programs, we craft a destination by creating something that we call a becoming list. And a becoming list is a list of statements that describe exactly who you are becoming, so you know what changes to make, where to focus your energy, all of that kind of stuff. I teach the entire process of becoming inside of my mini course, which is called the Future Self Immersion Experience. I'll put the link to that in the show notes in case you want to grab it. It's very, very low cost, and it's a great way to kind of dip your toe into this work that we're talking about on this podcast. However, when you do the work of becoming and you craft your becoming list, it's very important that you audit it a little bit. It's very important that you look at whatever your destination is, whatever you're telling yourself that you want, and you question it in 2 specific ways. And those are the questions that we're going to get into in this episode. Question number 1 is this: what do I want that I'm telling myself I can't have? And this can be for whatever reason. So when you're looking at the list that describes the person that you want to become, or if you're not using our framework, when you're thinking of the person that you want to become, are there aspects of who you want to become that you are telling yourself you cannot have? Those are your limiting beliefs. Maybe you want to become a business owner and you're telling yourself you'd never be brave enough for that. For me, for a long time, I wanted to have consistent routines. I wanted to become a person who followed her routines consistently. I knew that in the small amount of time that I was able to do that, in the couple of days that I would hang on to whatever routine I was working on, I felt so amazing. But for years and years and years and years and years, I could not string that together. And there was a lot out there in the world telling me, also enforcing the idea that I couldn't have that, even though it was something I really wanted that genuinely made me happy. Those of you who don't know, I have diagnosed ADHD. I am neurodivergent. And one of the things that the world out there will tell you about neurodivergence is that, if you have ADHD, you can't be consistent. You're incapable of follow through. Your brain doesn't work like that. You're incapable of being consistent and having consistent routines. If you are neurodivergent and have ADHD or whatnot, and you don't want to have consistent routines, it doesn't work for your life, you don't like it, it doesn't bring you happiness, that's fine. Then by all means, don't pursue that as a goal. But if you do, and you're telling yourself that because you are neurodivergent, that's something you cannot have, that's where I would start to question it. So what you're really asking yourself is, where is the world, where is our society placing limits on who I believe I can be? I am a big, big believer that if you really want something, if you truly desire it in your core, it is because on some level you are meant to have that thing, that thing is meant to come in your life. And that is more of like a spiritual belief I have. That's not necessarily like an evidence-based phenomenon by any means, but that is something that I have seen to be true about my life. So whenever I'm looking at my becoming list, when I am
in the process of reinventing myself, of changing my behaviors, of shifting how my life operates, I start by asking myself, what do I want that I am telling myself is impossible? What do I want that I do not believe I can have? Where am I potentially not even letting myself want something that I do want? Because some outside force, whether it's trauma or history or the past or society or this or that or the other thing, someone, some voice of someone somewhere from some time is telling me that's impossible for me, or that's out of reach, or I cannot have it. That's a really, really important thing to examine. So sit with that for a minute. Where are you telling yourself you can't have something that you truly, truly want? The next question is kind of the flip side and is equally as important. And it comes from the idea that when we have desires, we cannot ignore the fact that those desires are societally influenced. We are part of a culture that influences us, and it does influence what we want. And so when you're looking at your becoming list, and when you're looking at the person that you want to become, you got to ask yourself, do I actually want this? Does this actually bring me joy? Does this actually bring me happiness? Or does it only bring me satisfaction because it lines me up with who society is telling me I should be and what society is telling me I should do to be successful? A really phenomenal example of this is waking up at 5 a.m., especially if you're a mom and you're being told to wake up early before your kids. For the clients that I've worked with, it is about 50-50. 50% of the time, I have people who come to me who are telling me I want to wake up early, and actually, they don't want to wake up early. Actually, they've just been told that's going to make their life better. Actually, when they wake up at 5 a.m., sure, they feel better and they feel gratified, and it feels like something that they want because it is conventionally successful in their brain, right? Society, early morning wake-up culture has influenced them into thinking that that's what's going to make them a successful human. So it feels good for a while, but maybe they don't stick with it long term. Maybe they don't prioritize it when it really matters. And maybe in some cases, 50% of cases, I would say, it comes back to the fact that they actually don't care. At the end of the day, 5 a.m. wake-ups truly do not make a difference in their personal sense of happiness or well-being or their life, right? And then the other 50% of the time, it does make a difference. And these people are like, I want to wake up at 5 a.m. Is it because society is telling me I have to? Maybe, but really, like, I would do it whether or not society was going to give me a gold star. Like, and that's a great filter you can ask yourself too, is if this behavior was taboo, would I still continue to do it? Like, if we woke up tomorrow in a different version of the universe where it was considered weird and kind of gross and maybe neglectful to wake up at 5 a.m. Like, if 5 a.m. wake-ups had the same vibe as smoking, would you still continue to do it? Obviously without like the health risks of smoking. But like, if the behavior that you're chasing was suddenly taboo, would it still bring you joy? If our culture was the opposite of what it is now, if our culture rewarded the opposite of whatever the thing is, would you still choose to pursue it? And that's a really, really important thing to consider, because all of us, we do have a sense of autonomy over what we pursue, but what we want is influenced by the culture that we live in. And it's really, really important to dissect what influence the culture has on your desires before you move towards them with full force, because you can spend years and years and years and years trying to achieve a goal that society tells you you should have, right? Weight loss is a great example of this. You can spend years and years and years and tons of effort finally losing weight because society tells you that you should. And at the end of the day, you can get to that lower weight and not be any happier and not be any healthier because you only did it because society told you that you should. And maybe you thought you wanted it. Maybe it felt like it was good for a while because you were then in alignment with where the current is going, what society is pressuring you to do. But in reality, that was not something that you actually wanted. And it can be really, really tricky to pull those things apart. One of the things I like to remind myself is Just because all the girls are doing it doesn't mean I have to. But just because all the girls are doing it doesn't mean I shouldn't either. This was a revelation that came to me actually after the whole like hot girl walk trend went completely viral. And I was like, I will not go for a hot girl walk. That is what all the girls are doing. I don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like the mainstream girlies who are doing this hot girl walk. And then I started to go on more walks and kind of use it as an opportunity to connect to myself in like the sort of hot girl walk style. And I was like, oh, wait, bummer. I actually really like this. This actually makes me really happy. So those are the two questions. I'll say them again just so that you can write them down or revisit them over and over and over again, which is question number 1 is, what am I telling myself I can't have that I actually want? Or what am I telling myself is impossible for me that I actually desire? And question number 2, what am I telling myself that I should want? What is society leading me to prioritize, to put as a goal, to set as a desire, when in reality, that thing may actually not be something that I truly, truly, truly desire? Again, these are tricky questions. These are not things that are going to be unpacked overnight. These are great things to bring actually to your therapist, because if you're working with a therapist, this is a great in-depth conversation to have around how your childhood and your past and your history and the culture that you grew up in might be influencing some of what you want for your life right now. They're not easy questions, but they are questions that I revisit over and over and over and over again as I go through this becoming process, because even though I'm fairly good at this point at identifying what I want, at believing impossible things, at shooting for goals my brain thinks I'm absolutely incapable of, I'm fairly good at parsing out what society and culture is telling me that I should want and differentiating that from my true desires. I have practice, but it's still hard, and it's still something that I have to actively put conscious intention into over and over again, over and over and over again. So that's today's episode. Let me know if those 2 questions help you out, and I will see you next week.
Struggling to close the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it? It makes sense. In school, you took calculus and English class, but no one ever taught you how to follow through. That's why I created Change Academy, the school where we mix the real science behind self-help with the magic of accountability. Our evidence-based 4-step follow-through protocol helps build a version of you that's unstuck and truly evolving. One behavior, one goal, one quarter at a time. If you're ready to really do the work of becoming and step into the next version of you, visit the Change Academy link in the description to learn more.